Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking all about face palettes, specifically face palettes you can't get anymore. I was going through my face palette drawer the other day for a different video, and I realized that a lot of my favorite palettes were limited edition. I didn't realize they were limited edition, and you can't get them anymore. And it put me down this rabbit hole of thinking about all of these face palettes that were all the rage when they came out. I just dated myself for that all the rage thing. Wow. But all these face palettes that were limited edition that I missed the boat on. So this video is going to be maybe not half and half, maybe 60-40. Some palettes that I have and love that are limited edition and you can't get them anymore. And then palettes I missed out on and I think about quite often. So let's go ahead and get started with the palettes that I do own. So the first one, and this one, I'm so glad I was able to get this because I remembered this was pretty expensive. And a lot of these face palettes came out back when I first got into makeup. So you're looking at 2014, 2015, right before 2016-ish. And I had barely any money to my name. And whatever money I had to my name was going right to my student loans. I barely had any wiggle room at all. And so a lot of the higher end products that I actually did get were gifts, or I saved up months and months and months. And one of those products that I was able to get, I believe with the gift card, was this. This is the Smashbox Ablaze face palette, and I wanted this specifically because the Smashbox face palette, the face powder formula is spectacular. It's amazing. I love it. It is expensive though. I do have some dupes for it. But I love the bronzer and contour formula, so that sucked me in. But then also the bright orange blush. I am wearing it today. There's just something about a fiery red orange blush that just gets me. It really, really does. Honestly, these highlighters, they're just okay. But I was in it for this whole half of the palette. Really. Honestly, I'd be happy if the palette was just this. But it does make it a complete palette, so you could just bring this, have your bronzer, your contour, your blush, and your highlighter all in one place. Downsides to this, there was only one colorway. They did not make this any darker or lighter for any other complexions. And this is actually slightly too dark for me, so I have to use a light hand and really, really blend it out. But I was really only in this for the blushes. And unfortunately, you can't get this anymore. All right, next let's talk about some Tarte palettes. I have to say, Tarte is a very boring brand, but what they do pretty well, they do pretty well. And I'm so sad they discontinued this product because this is literally, I think, my favorite face palette of all time. And this is the original Clay Play face palette. This, I'm going to hold it upside down just because it's so reflective, but these shades are the most buttery, most blendable, most beautiful shades, both for the eyeshadows and for the face palettes, or the face palettes. For the face shades, thank you. You've got this really orangey kind of shade, which if you use it with a light hand and blend it out, it doesn't look terrible as a bronzer, but I love this contour shade. This cool tone shade in the middle is beautiful. It is gorgeous. And then this shade all the way at the end, it's really, really dark, but again, if you use a light hand and blend it out, I can use it on my face. Though I think nowadays I'd probably stick to these two, considering I am blending in with my background. I am very, very pale. But these shades are gorgeous. And this is a perfect palette for travel. It's thick, it's sturdy, it's got this gigantic mirror in it. I love everything about this palette, except for the fact that they discontinued it and they replaced it with this. This is the Clay Play 2, which is still available, and from what I've heard is not as good. So and I say that because I have not tried it. I have not picked it up. But part of me wants to pick it up now and compare it, but I don't think I'm gonna like it because I heard the formula is nowhere near as good as this one, and instead of having kind of a cohesive look to it, there's a random highlighter and a blush in it that did not really tempt me. So I've never been tempted to buy this until now, and I'm not tempted because it looks like a great product. I'm tempted because I want to compare it to the original and see how it is. So if you want to see that video, let me know down below. But I am so sad you cannot get this anymore, and I baby this thing. I know I'm not close to hitting pan and anything, but I'm so afraid that I'm going to run out because this is it. That's it. Moving on to a Tarte palette that I missed. I missed this when it came out, and I cannot remember if this was because I did not have money at the time or I thought I could buy it later and then I just didn't and then it was gone. This is the Park Avenue Princess palette, and I originally tried to buy this when I had the money and I went back to buy this. I looked at Ulta, looked at Sephora, nowhere. It was just gone. And I was like, oh no, it's a discontinued. But it's just this palette, and it got me thinking about this when this was discontinued. And I was like, wow, I love these shades. I love the bronzer and I love the contour. I want backups and I want like a different palette, which is silly, but I love the formula. So I went looking for this palette and it was gone. It was like Tarte discontinued everything that I loved and it was just gone. So I tried to buy this on Poshmark and Mercari, I believe, and both of my orders canceled through. Apparently a lot of people list things on those websites and then never follow up. Anyway, I've got a Poshmark, actually, and I do ship those out. So if you're ever interested in makeup, lightly used, decluttered makeup that I sanitized, check out my Poshmark. It's in the description box of all my videos. But I tried buying this online, could not. I believe I got this from a friend of mine. I think it was Victoria, Rare Beauty Envy, here on YouTube. And I believe she decluttered this and I bought it from her. And I was like, I need that palette, give it to me. And I have it. So I'm glad I kind of have a backup for like the bronzer shades that I love so much. And honestly, the palette itself, it's beautiful. Like, look at this packaging. It's stunning. It's stunning. So I'm glad where even though I could not get this on the first round, I was able to get it on the secondhand market. Now we're going to move to the sad portion, all of the face palettes that I missed out on. So let's start with the Tarte. The first Tarte I want to bring up was the original Graveyard Girl Swamp Queen like collab face and eye palette. Now this looks really, really basic, right? And I don't think I was really into makeup when this came out. I was a bit late to the game. I think this might have come out. Let's find out. Give me a second. I'm gonna look up when this came out. Oh, this came out in summer of 2016. Okay, so this must have been like right after I got into makeup. And I don't think, because when I first started doing makeup, I really didn't do full face yet. I kind of started with eyeshadow and I was really big on eyeshadow. And I think I just missed this. But also at the time, the amount that would have been for this face palette would have been way too much money for me. I just wouldn't have been able to afford it. But I feel sad about this just because I know how great Tarte's formula was in these kind of palettes at the time. And I think this would have been a great palette to have, honestly, especially for beginner Monica who did not really know a whole lot about makeup. I think she would have been like ecstatic with this palette. It is technically still available on like Poshmark and Mercari, but these are so old at this point. I'm not going to buy a secondhand one just to have it because it's not going to be the original, you know, at the top of its game, brand new, just formulated kind of product, you know? But that is one that I missed out on and I felt it. Next, who remembers the Tarte Big Blush books? Those, like, when those came out for holiday, everyone lost, like, their damn noodles. Like, these were, like, the biggest thing that happens in sliced bread in the beauty community. Because it was, like, a whole bunch of blushes. But what caught me about this was the price. So even though it's a great price, like, per ounce when you break it down, it's $60. And I did not have that kind of money to spend just on blush back then. And I remember watching videos of people talking about the big blush books, and I think there were 4 of these in total, and they came out like every year for holiday, and I never had the money to be able to get one of these. And again, these are available on the secondhand market now, but I wouldn't want to buy something secondhand like that. I really want them, like, I thought they were going to come out with like a new version of the blush book, but there really hasn't been anything recently. But I remember how like big these were. I'm kind of shocked they're not doing something similar again. But I dreamed about having like my entire blush wardrobe. I remember people used to say it's a blush wardrobe just in one of these palettes. And I think you could also pop the blushes out too if you wanted to like depot them and use them and not have to use the whole big blush book at once. But oh man, like I think about that. That's one of the big early YouTube things that I lusted over and I just was never able to get my hands on. Next, let's talk about Becca. So Becca, of course, was known for a bunch of like collab face palettes. The one face palette though that like I was like super into, but again, I just did not have the money at the time, and by the time I had money to spend, it was gone. This is the Becca Apres Ski Glow face palette, and just everything about this palette was gorgeous. I also at first did not think this would work for my complexion, but then I saw a bunch of people reviewing this palette that were like me or even lighter, and the shades look beautiful on them. So I was like, oh, the biggest FOMO ever. But I could not afford the palette at the time. I think it was around, I don't know how much it was when it first came out. I think it was more than like 50. It must have been like in the 60, 65 area, and I just could not pick it up. But everything about this palette, the packaging, the shades, man, I wish I had this palette. This is one, well, I don't think I would be able to get my hands on it, but this is one that I would maybe buy secondhand. But because Becca is now out of business, I'm sure like if there are any of these available online, they're probably gone by now. But that's the one Becca face palette that like I totally missed out on and like totally regret. If only I could have gotten this when it was out. Last and not least, let's talk about Stila. Stila had some amazing products in like 2015, 2016, and then they discontinued a bunch of them and like stuck to different products that maybe or maybe not worked so well for them. But these specifically, these were the perfect Hue Eye and Cheek palettes. And these came out in 2016, and these are gorgeous. Like, I want all of these. Again, I think it was the price point and the time frame, but these would have been super nice to beginner Monica who really did not know a whole lot about makeup or color matching. But I love everything about these palettes. These are gorgeous. They've got beautiful blushes in them. I see a gorgeous, like, there's the deep complexion because these are broken up into 4 different complexions, but I think you can mix and match and pick the shades that you like best. And what's calling out to me is the deep blushes with like that apricot orange shade on the left. Oh my God, these look beautiful. And again, I don't think I even heard about these until they were already discontinued. I think someone mentioned it either a declutter video or an old review video. And so these weren't even on my radar when they were out. And it made me sad because looking back now, like if these were out today, I would totally buy these. They look beautiful. I love the packaging. I love the shades. I love the way that they're arranged too. They're so aesthetically pleasing with like the 2 big blushes, that nice big shade on the left, and then like a cute little quad. Like I love everything about these palettes, and makes me very, very sad that they're just gone. They're poof into the void. So that is it. Those are all the face palettes that I have and love and cherish, and then the ones that make me sad that I missed out on them. Let me know down below, what's your favorite limited edition face palette? And if you think, well, hey, let's break this out in 2 parts. 1, if you have your limited edition face palette, how do you hold on to it? Do you use it all the time? Have you hit pan in any of those shades? Or 2, if you missed out on a palette, did you ever buy something secondhand and how did that go? Leave all of that down below so I have tons to read, please. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I cannot wait to see you in my next video. Bye.